G'day everyone and welcome to the first edition of the Crowcast Rev Up, brought to you by no one at the moment, so we haven't got a naming sponsor for this show yet, so if you do own a business and want to get amongst it, then give me a hoy sponsorship at aflcrowcast.com. And this week we're sort of going the 50-50 approach on the video. A couple of technical glitches at the last minute, so there'll be plenty of graphics and stats and highlights on during the banter, but in terms of full video, that will be hopefully next week, but we'll kick on regardless. And joining me for the first time on the Crowcast, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, first time.
First time is my eldest son, actually, and I'm probably just going to call him Crispy or something. I don't know.
Don't rag on the name, mate. All right? You're just jealous because you got no hair.
But reckons he knows more about me, so hopefully between the two of us we might give you some decent info as well as a bit of entertainment over the next half an hour. So sit back and enjoy the show. So the game obviously is this afternoon at 4:05pm at Adelaide Oval. I think it's a sellout. Is it?
Couldn't tell you, to be honest. We'll call it a sellout, though. Why not?
I'm going to call you by your name too many times if I'm not careful.
That's all right.
Okay. Look, just some brief stats before we head into the lineups. We haven't had too much of a good run against the Hawks over the last half a dozen or so.
Bit of a bogey.
Well, I think we've only actually... The last time we beat Hawthorn
was 2017 MCG.
And ironically, it was David McKay's last good game.
It's all right.
We'll get to that.
We'll get to him in a minute. Don't worry about
that. Let's hook into the teams. And Cam, you're our weekly scout, so you've got the Hawthorn team this week. Just run through the team for us, will you, mate?
Yeah, all right. So we'll start at the forward. So you got Bruce in the forward pocket, Gunston lining up at full forward, and Puopolo in the other pocket. Ruffy at half forward with the young fella Nash, and then Sicily, funnily enough, is named at the half forward flank as well. It'll be interesting to see how that pans out. Isaac Smith plays on the wing with Shields in the guts and Morrison on the other wing. You've got Burgoyne playing at a half-back flank, Mira centre half-back, and then Stratton at the other half-back. And then full-back line is Hardwick, Frawley and Impey. Followers for them, obviously McAvoy, Rucking. You've got the Titch, I guess, replacement in Warpool. Looks like he's going to try and take that role as well as O'Meara. And then you've got Henderson, Segler, Scrimshaw and the young fella Cousins on the bench. So...
Don't see anyone coming out late on that one, Cam?
Nah, I mean, you look at their emergencies and, it's pretty stock standard. The only one maybe would be Caden Brand, just for the simple fact of matchups. But look, they've already got Frawley down there and Stratton. It'll be interesting to see who they go with for the matchup for Lynch. I don't think it'll be Burgoyne. You'd think that they'd use him for a bit of rebound. So you never know. They might bring in Caden Brand, but apart from that, I don't see them changing anything.
Gunston was a 50-50, so he's obviously come up. But
yeah, well, maybe he's another one that'll come out as well.
Yeah,
traitor.
Arsehole.
Yeah.
Look, the Crows, pretty strong lineup with only one or maybe two contentious selections.
Goodness.
Starting forward line, we've got Mullets Murphy, JJ and Betts across the full forward line. We've got Chief, Tex and the new lad. Congratulations to Chase Jones on his debut in his first season.
Ripper as well.
Absolute ripper. Yeah, deserves his spot.
Yep.
Forced his way in, I reckon, with his JLT.
Yeah, I don't reckon he was due to play, to be honest. I think he might have just put the wind up a few in the coaching panel and said, pick me.
Well, pretty much, yeah. We got Miller, Crouch, Matt and Brodie Smith across the middle. The desk, Alex Keith and Pictures McKay across half-back. And Jake Kelly, Tars and the GOAT.
Doodah day. Hey.
Yeah, the GOAT.
The GOAT.
He is the GOAT.
Oh, okay.
Come on, at fullback. Rucking, we've got the old dinosaur Jacobs with co-captain Sloane.
Hang on. Lay off. He's looking all right this year. Leave him alone. He's looking fit. He's moving all right.
I'm not confident. And the Rolls Royce Bryce Gibbs. On the bench, we've got Brad Crouch. How good is it to see him back?
Oh.
Riley Knight for a bit of tough stuff. Rory Atkins for a bit of silk. And Richard Douglas for a bit of nostalgia. I don't know.
they have an age? Do they have to have an age pension gap in there or something?
I think you know how it's like equal opportunity. You've got to. That's the only thing I can think of. Anyway, you know, so obviously the debut of Chase Jones. Not too many other surprises apart from Pix McKay.
Yep.
We got emergencies. Otten unlikely. Ellis Yeoman dead stiff in my opinion.
Yep.
Fogarty probably just a matchup issue, and Riley O'Brien, who's the perennial emergency.
I was going to say Andy Otten and Riley O'Brien have probably played more emergencies than they have actual games.
If they had, I wonder if they actually tallied up like games on the emergency. How many they'd have?
Andy Otten would
500.
Andy Otten would be triple century, I reckon.
I guess probably it's worthwhile talking about some of the key matchups. Cam, what do you got there for us?
Well, I reckon the biggest thing, and where I think we'll probably get over the top if we play well, would be the midfield. I mean, there's no small out for them, obviously, in Mitchell, horrible injury, and they're going to try a few of the lesser experienced types in there, like Warple, and then obviously Scrimshaw and Cousins. So, when you look at our midfield, it looks pretty damn good on paper, and I was pretty pleased with the way that went in JLT as well, and having Matt and Brad back in the same midfield just makes you want to lick your lips a bit. So be interesting to see how that pans out. In terms of, I guess, other big key matchups, I'd probably be looking at the Source McAvoy matchup. They always seem to have a pretty good battle. They're probably the exact same player, the loping sort of link up. I mean, McAvoy might try and drag Source down the ground a little bit because he likes to rest at full forward and kick a couple of goals every now and again. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see how the midfield battle plays out.
Yeah, it's very young, their midfield, isn't it? A lot of pressure on O'Meara, I think, to carry that, and Shields. Yeah. I think they will probably have a slight advantage in ruck. I
don't know. I wouldn't be so sure about that. They're basically the same player, Dad.
Yeah, I just don't think it's terribly important anyway in this particular game. I actually think it's going to be about who gets the ball and who converts. We were talking before, Cam, that it's interesting having Segler on the bench. Probably gives Clarkson the opportunity to have a couple of different looks up forward.
Definitely run Saucy off his feet a little bit as well, because Segler played a little bit down back at times last year as well, so it'll be interesting to see if they bring him back down there or what they do, because the matchups are a little bit all over the place in terms of how they've lined up on the sheet, and they never really line up properly on the team sheet anyway. But yeah, the Segler move is an interesting one for sure.
Well, because you mentioned Sicily across half forward, I mean, if he ends up off half back, you've got maybe Burgoyne's the one to move into the midfield, to have some minutes in the midfield there, and they can go smaller or taller, Hawthorn. Having said that, our backs are pretty versatile. We've got a good mix, and I think probably the reason they went with Kelly in the end was because he can play that tall or small role.
He worries me though, old Jakey. He's every time the ball goes to him on a one-on-one, he's a little bit scary at times. Yeah,
he's not my favourite player, but I mean, really,
I think he playing on you've got him at the full back line. He's going to be playing on Bruce or Puopolo at times.
Yeah,
and that just worries me, because Puopolo is sneaky, all the time. Bruce is, a very much a veteran player and played in a ton of premierships, kicking, bags all the time. And I just don't think that's a very good matchup.
So I would have played Ned McHenry.
I would have as well, to be honest.
He's a tackling machine. They've got.
Did he play in the back line in his juniors? Because I thought we drafted him as a half forward or something.
Yeah, well, he's played mids.
Yeah.
But I mean, Puopolo always worries me. He always seems to bob up. Bloody Bruce always seems to bob up.
Yeah.
And having a kid like McHenry down there in his first game, he doesn't look like the sort that would have been overawed. And he's a tackling machine.
Yeah, thrived on it.
Tackling machine.
Perfect sort of body type for those two players as well, especially probably the Puopolo one as well. That would have been a good little duel and a good little welcome to AFL footy for him. But yeah, there's a few matchups down back that worry me. The Sicily one is a little bit concerning as well. You'd think if he did actually play half forward that Dode'd probably take him, because they're a bit of a like for like, but Sicily's that type of player that you just don't know what he's going to do.
No, and you'd think that they'd be well aware that Tom Doedee is our intercept player.
Yeah.
And I reckon they want to try and make him accountable, and maybe that is the thinking with Sicily.
It's a fair call.
That they want to make Tom play a bit one-on-one. Having said that, of course, we've got the backup of David McKay, named after a stellar pre-season where he actually tore it up in the club rooms, I guess. He didn't
rehab.
I didn't see him on the ground. I believe that he played a trial with the twos and picked up 1 or 2 touches. Look, nothing against D-Mac. Nothing against D-Mac. This is purely a football conversation. I'll leave that other discussion for other places. But what's the actual thinking of picking David McKay? What's the actual thinking? I understand we've got a couple underdone.
Yeah.
We've got Huey Greenwood, by all reports, had a really good game in the 2 trial
Cleaned up,
tonight.
actually. Yep.
Gallucci, apparently underdone, but also had a pretty good game tonight.
Yep. You got Ellis Yeoman sitting in the emergencies. Like, I know it's not a like for like down back, but you've got about 14 half backs in your side. Surely you could swindle one back there. You know what I mean? You know, you've got Miller playing on the wing, which I love, by the way. But do you really need to bring D-Mac in when we've got Atkins, Miller, Brodie Smith, and Rory Laird who can all play half back? Even Jake Kelly could play half back.
Well, we played Kelly up in the wing at times.
I know, that's
JLT.
sort of what I'm getting at. Like, and
I don't understand it. No. I don't know. I think Wayne Miller is actually more of a halfback player than a wingman.
Yeah,
I'm a little confused that you'd start Atkins on the bench instead of on the wing.
Yeah,
with Miller at halfback, giving you that run.
Again, are they actually going to start where they've said they're going to start?
No. But if they don't start that way, how are they going to start? I mean, where are you going to play D-Mac on the wing? Maybe for a bit of run and carry.
To be honest, I'd actually rather him there because I don't rate his defensive ability.
No, I will. You know, I guess my query and my confusion about David's inclusion is what he brings to the table over the couple of blokes that have been left out for whatever reason. So let's have a look. We've got 2 mid-size halfbacks in Dede and Kelly. Mm-hmm. Why wouldn't you then bring in McHenry instead of David McKay?
Yeah, well, the only thing I can think of is a positional thing. If he's not actually played down there and he's not been training down there, I think that the more obvious option, if that is the case with McHenry, is that, like I said before, we've got 3 or 4 blokes that can play that position. Why do we need to bring David McKay in to cover Seedsman? Like, obviously, it's, he's the natural pick for Seedsman, apparently, what I'm been reading on social media and hearing from coaches. But when you've got that many players that play that position in the team already, what's the point? You're better off covering off another area.
And how is D-Mac any less underdone than, say, Huey Greenwood?
Well, yeah.
Or Jordan Gallucci?
Like, I reckon even Darcy Fogarty would be better back there at times. Like, at least, you're going to get contest unless he's had a good pre-season. D-Mac, God love him, can break a line, but I just don't see him, how he fits into that team. I really don't.
Well, I mean, let's have a look at the matchups. I mean, he's going to be matched up on probably Luke Bruce.
Yeah.
That seems to be the obvious matchup for D-Mac. And I know that it's, that things change around. Yeah. But I wouldn't put any of your money on D-Mac to beat Luke Bruce.
Put your money on it, mate.
Well, you've got all my money.
I can't.
But I wouldn't put any money on D-Mac beating Luke Bruce in a one-on-one contest. In fact, I'd put all my money on Luke Bruce to beat D-Mac one out 100% of the time.
And it sort of begs the question, like you said, are they going to potentially push him up the ground and play him on the wing? I'd be much more comfortable there because at least then, you might get burnt going the other way, but at least he's going to give you some sort of drive and can play that link up. And look, to D-Mac's defence, I think there's been times, last year and the year before where he's definitely hardened up at the contest and whatever. But the issue that I have with him is that his decision with the ball at times is a lot to be left desired. Like, he tends to burn it. He's either miraculous or he's crap. Yeah. And again, like you said at the start, there's nothing against him because he's been a pretty mainstay in the team for a long time. But I just think
he's clearly our next 300 game player.
I checked today, he's played 205.
He's only got 95 to go. He can play until he's 45, surely.
Didn't he only sign another 1 year or something? I think he's in trouble there. But, yeah, look, to be honest, I just think that when you've got such a promising young brigade in the wings, and like even some of the ones that we haven't even named emergency as well, waiting in the wings, that you just think, wouldn't it have been a perfect time to blood one of them? Or, if you didn't want to go that way and you wanted to go the 2007 mode where we just played the same team every week, surely there's another bloke that can play that position. Because 100% D-Mac's underdone, and the matchup doesn't seem to sit well depending on where he plays. Like, it just seems a bit of an odd decision. That's all I'll say. And look, it's pretty lucky that we're talking about this a day after, because as you know, when I found out on the day, we wouldn't have been able to actually publish any of this online, because it just would have been bleeping the whole time.
Well, and let's be honest, let's hope. And again, this is not a personal thing against Dave McKay. He's a lovely bloke.
Yeah.
And, you could never question D-Mac's courage on the field, because he always puts his head over the ball.
Yeah. 100%.
But you would think that Seedsman comes straight back in for McKay when fit.
So. Anyway,
it'd be an absolute disaster if.
Can you imagine the meltdown? Oh.
Well, yeah. If we have another couple of weeks of this show with D-Mac in the team, it's going to get interesting. Look, the other one that frustrates me, and I know he polarises this guy, but Richard Douglas.
Yeah.
I wasn't impressed at all with his form in the JLT. I thought he had patches of mediocrity mixed with large periods of being invisible.
Of absence, yeah.
I know. See, Cameron Ellis-Yeoman to me is the unlucky one.
Oh, yeah.
Because I know he's classed as an inside midfielder and he's not pacey and all the rest of it. But he gets the agate, and the other thing too is he can play forward,
100%,
and pluck a mark and kick a goal.
Yep.
Richard Douglas, I don't feel like he's damaging to any degree. I feel like he's a bit player. I feel like we would be the same whether he's in or out. I don't think he adds anything to the team.
I think that, and it'll be interesting to see where he plays, because obviously he's named on the bench, and I 100% agree with you. I think that, and it sort of goes back into the point about McKay, we've got a couple of these younger guys coming through, and like blokes like you mentioned, Cam Ellis-Yeoman, who probably the unluckiest bloke in the AFL bar Michael Barlow, for not getting a gig when he absolutely deserves one. But with Douglas, I think he's been stitched up by the up and coming of Lockie Murphy and now Chase Jones, because really he would have retired on that half forward flank and done a job, and I think that's where he's best served. But now we've got players that you'd probably rather be there, like the Lockie Murphys and now Chase Joneses of the world. And I think now he's sort of stuck in that between, well, they think he's in their best 22, but where does he fit? And he's just going to end up floating around. And look, he'll have his good games like he did last year. He had a couple of games where it's like, wow, Douglas of old. And he's been an absolute legend of the club, won best and fairest and whatever. But I just question whether his ability at this stage of his career is going to be up to where we need to be. Because he had a really bad knack of going missing last year and cost us a few times in really big games as well the year before.
I actually felt he had a horrific 2018, and I agree with you 100%. He's one of the old class of Crows players that goes missing in big games, and his grand final performance, and I know he wasn't an orphan, but as part of the midfield rotation, his grand final performance as a senior player was diabolical. The amount of times that he went to ground, made incorrect decisions, etc., we don't have to dwell on that. But I just felt like this year was an opportunity to move forward on a few players.
And I really thought when they signed McKay, and I think Douglas as well again, I really thought that they were just going to be the older heads running around in the twos for a bit of insurance. I didn't think we'd be seeing them round one when we've got a list as healthy as what we've got. Like, we've got, 2 injuries, which is Seeds and Brown.
Yeah.
And we're playing them. It boggles my mind a little bit. And again, like you said, there's nothing against these two because they've both been mainstays of the best 22 for a long time. But I think it's time now that we try and just sort of break that mould a little bit and get some of these fresh faces in.
Well, I'll ask you a question. If Hugh Greenwood was fit, would he be in this 22?
Well, you'd hope not, because who else comes out apart from McKay?
Well, what I'm saying though is you would think that Huey Greenwood is best 22, wouldn't you?
Yeah, you would. But then there's a like for Cam Ellis-Yeoman sitting in the emergency list. So why isn't he playing?
And that's exactly the point that I was getting to. That if you think Hugh Greenwood is best 22 and therefore he slots into this side, then clearly there's room for Cam Ellis-Yeoman when Hughie's not there. And I would have thought that Richie Douglas was the player that would make way for that midfield.
Yeah, and it actually worries me a little bit for Hughie as well when he does come back, because where does he fit in that midfield?
Well, I don't know whether he does. I think he actually takes on the half-forward type role with minimal, like a second-tier rotation through the midfield.
Yeah, and I agree with that, but then all of a sudden we're really tall down forward again. You've already got Lynch and Walker and Jenkins. You throw Hughie down there as well, and I know at times it worked really well last year, but that was because we had no one else. I just worry about us being a little bit top heavy, because last year, I know again injuries and but last year our forward line really struggled to click, and we looked very, very top heavy when we had all McGovern, Lynch, Walker and Jenkins playing in the same side. And I actually much prefer the just going with the three talls and then having the three smalls within Betts, Jones and Murphy around them.
I actually think it's a much different look in our forward line. Because you've got Lynchy that plays up.
Yep.
So really, you're talking about Tex and JJ as our tall players, and Tex is a lead up anyway, and JJ is a tall small. So,
get off his back. I'm a bit converted on.
Did
Josh
he play
Jenkins.
any JLT?
He did. Yes.
He was running around, was he?
He was.
JLT.
He was.
Yeah, right.
Mate, last year. He's the only bloke that actually more often than not put enough in to actually say that, I played last year.
Had a good season.
He did.
Had a good season.
I actually thought he matured and he brunted a lot of that forward work, and I actually thought that his one-on-one work got a lot better last year as well.
Decent player in a shit team last year.
Yeah, correct. And I have to admit, watching JLT made me a little bit worried, because Josh does tend to fluctuate in and out of form quite rapidly at times.
He's a bit impetuous, isn't he? He's a little bit...
I don't know what that means, but I'll agree with you. Yeah, because I want to like Josh, I do, because when he's good, he's
we all want to like Josh.
Freaking good. Like he
follows the NFL.
Oh, and every time, and that time he gives bloody rants of Bath, like that's just a good time for every Crow supporter everywhere. When he does those sorts of things, he's fantastic. But sometimes when he goes missing, it can again it
leaves a bit of a hole.
Yeah.
I'm really glad they picked Mullet. I reckon he deserved his opportunity.
Love his mode Mullets.
Yeah, although he's got rid of it now. But the name,
did he?
Yeah, but the name's going to stick.
That's weak.
But it's a small, pacey forward line with Jones, Lachlan Murphy, and Eddie Betts in there. Betts looking good so far this season.
Yeah, he does.
Lynchy, obviously, as I said, playing up. It's going to be interesting to see how they play.
I worry for Lynch a little bit in that regard because of the zone being pushed back now, because really Lynch was that link-up man on the wing, and now that you've got this kick-in rule where they can just play on without kicking it to themselves, and they've got that protected zone or whatever.
He's going to get squashed up.
Yeah, he's not going to have much space to run around, and I noticed in the JLT he was sort of a bit irrelevant at times, and he's in the respect of his athletic ability, he's a workhorse, but he doesn't have a turn of pace, and his at times skills can be a little bit wayward as well, and his marking ability when he's not on can be a bit scratchy. So I worry for how he's going to sort of develop when we've got blokes like Smith and Malera and Laird kicking out from full back to the centre wing to a contest where he would normally be getting the ball. But then you flip that around and you got Walker, who seemed to thrive in the JLT leading up through the middle of the ground. So you wonder how that's all going to play out for Tommy Lynch.
Yeah, look, it's he looked a bit at sea. I agree with you. Him and JJ seem to be a little bit at sea.
Oh, I think we can get off JJ's back a little bit, because it's playing deep and everyone's not really trying 100%. I'll leave Josh alone until round 2.
Will you?
Yeah.
I'm not going to leave Josh alone. He's not really done much so far in the JLT.
Oh, well, who cares? It's JLT, mate. You like when we talked after that GWS game, you're like, been playing like crap. I was like, what game are you watching? We torched them for 2 quarters and then just parked the bus and just won, just cause.
Yeah.
I think that we as Crow supporters, being passionate bunch, we just get a bit stuck in sometimes, and I think we just need to relax and
just relax a bit.
Josh Jenkins is a whipping boy, and I think we just need to get off his back, because he earned a bit of respect last year, I reckon.
I definitely, yeah, no doubt about that. And I actually think his ruck work improved as well.
Yeah,
last year.
I really hope that he turns in. Like, I don't think he will, but if he could turn into that genuine second ruck option, where he goes in and is basically another midfielder. Like, he's got all the physical attributes to be able to do that. It's whether he has the footy smarts to be able to play midfield, because he's played deep forward all of his life.
Yeah,
I just wonder whether he can take that next step and be that genuine second ruck. I thought he took really good strides last year in that second ruck role, and like watching him get centre clearances and stuff is a pretty good time. Sort of Grundy-esque in that regard, because that's how Grundy plays. He's basically just like a big midfielder who takes the tap for him. So, if Josh Jenkins can be like that, and obviously he's not going to be to Grundy's standard, but at least sort of emulate that type of game style when he does go into the ruck, it'd be fantastic.
Yeah, I agree. Hey, let's talk about how we think the game might be played. I've noticed Adelaide playing a little bit differently in the JLT. Certainly, two modes of game that they seem to be able to play. They've concentrated a bit on controlling tempo.
Yeah, I mean, like I said to you in that when we spoke after the GWS game, it seemed like we've figured out our two gears. Whereas 2017 we had one gear, and it was go 100 million miles an hour.
Oh no,
2017, yeah, 2017 where we just ran and gun, and we didn't really have any intention of slowing the ball down, and it was fantastic to watch, but at times it sort of left us a bit exposed if it wasn't going our way. Last year, because of personnel being down, we tried to play a bit more keepies off, whereas this year it seems to like we've found our two modes.
Yeah.
And I noticed in the GWS game, when we went hard, but then we also seemed to have the nous to be able to slow the game down when we wanted to as well.
Yeah.
That might have just been because, Pikey's gone, all right, I've seen enough, let's just everyone relax for a little bit and just control the game. Whether that was a more tactical directive, I don't know. But it seemed like we had our two modes more set in stone than what we've had in previous years.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And it looks to me as if we're looking to drop the eyes and play a bit more possession this year. What I did enjoy in both games, actually, in the JLT, was our desire to be adventurous by foot.
Yep.
So we were making those little chippy 45-degree passes, trying to spread the defence, spread the zones, and find ways. And I don't think that's something we've been necessarily good at in the past. I think we've tended to play up and down the line, or do a very, a very basic switch from one side of the ground to the other. Whereas I feel like in what I've seen so far, we've started to use the ball by foot. To just try and spread that zone out a little bit and try to find ways through. Yeah,
and look, I think that's got a lot, and it's not all him, but I think it's got a lot to do with Brodie Smith being back as well. Like, I think we all forgot how much creation we got off the halfback line from him. Like, Laird was a stalwart back there, and Miller was a bit of a godsend in the end as well, considering we had such a big hole there. But
and D-Mac when he played.
Shut up about D-Mac. But with Smith being back, I think he just instigates that run and carry, and it seems to, I don't know if this is legit or not, but from me watching it, seeing Smith and Miller and Laird and even Atkins all link up, he seems to sort of instigate that creative play in all those types.
Yeah.
Whereas last year, when we didn't really have him around, we seemed very stagnant, and again, don't know if it's directly related to him, but he's the only common denominator between the two situations. So, and he just, I think having such a level head, because he's obviously a bit of a vet these days as well, will definitely help us with our ball movement going forward like that.
I actually reckon that Brodie, and this could be complete bullshit, but I, like the rest of what I've said.
You talking bullshit? No.
But I reckon Brodie's come back from his ACL on a bit of a mission. He seems to me to be playing with far more confidence. He's far more aggressive with his running and his. I
think he was always like that, though, don't you think?
Yeah, but yes, I agree, but not for as long a period as I feel like he's going to be playing now. I feel like he was in and out of games a little bit more.
Yep.
And I felt like he did some very good things, but he was missing for periods of time.
Yeah.
Whereas I feel like since he's come back from his ACL, I think he's decided to make every post a winner, probably realising that any moment he could go down again, and that's the end of his end of his season again.
Well, the poor bloke goes down and we make a grand final.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And really missed him terribly, because he's the type of player we really needed on that day.
And you're right, Cam. He is a veteran now.
Yeah.
He's got enough experience, and
Yeah.
I agree with you. I think he adds that flair and that decisiveness to our defence.
Yeah.
And he's a double weapon because he's got pace.
Oh yeah.
So he can burn a player off, but he can burn a player off and then kick over a line as well. And
he hasn't seemed to have lost his step with his knee either. Like, how sometimes players come back and the agility is not what it used to be. It doesn't seem like he's lost any strength,
no, not at all,
sidestepping or anything like that.
Yeah. So he's a real asset, and it's great to have him back.
Yep.
Look, I reckon Hawthorn are going to try and play this off their half-back line. I think they're going to try and push players behind the ball.
Yeah, but again, will these new rules sort of affect that? I know it's only from the centre clearance, but you got to think, there's got to be a guy that's, and I saw it happen in the game last night between Richmond, night before between Richmond and Carlton, where they tried to get a player behind the ball and the bloke from the wing ran back, but then it left his direct opponent on the wing and the ball went straight to him and went over his head.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting to see how teams tackle that, because obviously they're still going to try and get one behind the play because that's just how teams play.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think there's still a bit of teams feeling each other out about how that goes down, and you're right, they'll probably try and play off the half-back line, but who's going to be back there if Sicily doesn't play there? If he plays at half forward, you've got Burgoyne and Impey, and
Well, they push Gunston back there at times.
But they got to kick goals too, Dad. Because who else is going to kick goals?
Yeah. Well, no. I understand, but I think Hawthorn would almost concede that midfield battle. It looks like men versus boys. Which is unusual against a Hawthorn side that have been renowned for so long.
Well, it'd be nice to pump them for once, to be honest.
Well, and I think that's probably where they're going to struggle against us. I'm actually quite bullish about the Adelaide Crows' chances in this game because I don't feel that they're going to be able to get enough of the ball, Hawthorn. And the key for us is going to be ball use. Making sure that we make full use of our forward 50 entries. And making sure we move the ball quickly so that we don't allow Hawthorn to get behind the ball, which is what I think they're going to try and do.
Well, it'd be nice to take advantage of these new rules with our centre clearance work and just hit JJ on the tit a couple of times coming out of the middle. Because with this whole playing out of the goal square thing, I think there's actually a bit that could be taken advantage of that. Some people disagree and think it's a waste of bloody time, but I think that if you're getting a decent centre clearance and breaking away from the centre clearance with just a quick flick handball out the back or out the side of the contest and getting it straight into JJ, there's not many people who are going to beat JJ one-on-one if it's on his head. And even if he brings it to ground, you got Eddie at his feet and Lockie Murphy and Chase Jones now as well.
Do you think that might be one of the reasons why we've gone a bit smaller up forward?
Could be. Because you don't want to clog that up. And if we've got such a potent midfield like it seems like we do on paper, you'd want to take full advantage of that, especially when you've got a bit of a man mountain down there at full forward.
Yeah.
Because, who have you got playing on him? We've got Frawley. And Frawley's no slouch, but he's also not as big as Jenkins. Like, he'd be, 195 and nowhere near as heavy. So, and Jenkins is a big man. And when he's in his mode, like I said, not many people will beat him one-on-one. And even if he does, he brings it to ground anyway, and then Eddie mops up. So, it'd be interesting. It'd be nice to see a bit of that because it's very slick when that happens as well. So it's good watching. But yeah, definitely interesting.
Yeah, and with this new 666 rule, we were talking before. I just feel like you just push everyone up and just have a one out and
bit of Pagan's paddock.
Bit of Pagan's paddock and just. Make it one out in the goal square, and even at the centre bounce, just have the guy in the goal square, whether it be Tex or Josh, just clear out, and just leave a massive space behind the 50, and just kick it there.
Yeah,
let people. We've got enough pace to run onto it with Murphy and Betts and Jones.
Well, it'll be interesting to see if people even try and use the bloke in the goal square as the typical full forward. Because there's opportunity to play the dummy plays there and start, I'm just using it as an example, Lockie Murphy. Start him in the square, have everyone else start at the half forward line and just get Lockie to clear out to the left into the pocket.
Yeah, exactly.
And then just watch everyone run back and just play a bit of chaos and see if we can get one
then
through.
He can also duck in behind that.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see how they all play out. I think in the JLT, the commentators are talking they haven't had much time to be able to, train these new rules. What a load of crap that is, their AFL team. So I think they were just feeling each other out and didn't want to give too much away.
I'm sure of it.
So it'd be interesting to see what new tactics emerge. I'm also keen to see how blokes like Smith and Malera and Laird take advantage of this space, that the extra space they're going to get kicking out as well. I mean, a lot of people think it's just moving the zone up the ground, but I think that it does leave a few more avenues open to goal, and it'd be interesting to see if we do actually get a few more coast to coast like the AFL think we're going to.
Well, it does allow you to get the ball to the 50 pretty quick, and from there you've got options. And like as we were talking about before, we seem to be more inclined to chip it around by foot and do those little diagonals and try and spread the defence. So the one thing that that when the ball is kicked for a behind, the coaches see that as an opportunity. We have possession, and you're not going to get a free possession like a kick out and kick it to a 50-50. So I'm sure you will see now and again big bombs, as a bit of a changer.
Yep.
But I do feel that the biggest difference,
measured.
Yeah, well, I think the biggest difference, as you pointed out, with the zone pushing back, it just allows teams to set up with a little bit more variety coming out of defence because they've got more space in the 50.
Yeah. Well, I noticed Richmond the night before last, when they set up, they actually still had that outlet kick to the left.
Yeah.
And that bloke's got a lot of space now. So it's going to be interesting to see if teams are willing just to cop that.
Yeah.
And whether, the teams that are trying to, attack down the ground will actually be able to take any advantage, or whether it's just going to turn into a maul in the middle of the ground anyway.
Yeah. Look, mate, I reckon we've just about sewn it up. Look, I don't know how long we've been going, but in all that time we didn't seem to find an answer for why DMAC was selected. But hopefully, by about 7 o'clock, we'll have found out the reason, because DMAC's had a blinder and kicked the winning goal or something.
I swear to God, if DMAC has a good game, I'll probably eat the piece of paper in front of me. And I hope he does, and will eat that piece of paper if I have to, but I just... Yeah. Hey,
if you're on the punt, Sportsbet have got us pretty much favourite. $1.35 head-to-head, over 3.05 for Hawthorn. I reckon Hawthorn might come in a little bit. That seems a little bit generous. I know it's at Adelaide Oval. I know we're in good nick, but it is Hawthorn. Our record against Hawthorn has been terrible. We've never actually beaten Hawthorn at Adelaide Oval, you know that?
Really? Not at Adelaide Oval?
Never beaten them at Adelaide Oval.
Nah, but it's a different team on the park, and they've got their best player out. I think that we didn't really go through this too much, and I probably should have in more depth, but Mitchell being out is a massive deal for them, and a lot of people say, he just gets, cheap touches, and he's just an accumulator, like similar to Dane Swan type stuff. But I think people forget how important he is for their spread. He gets that that cheap, well, not cheap one, but that quick one out of the stoppage, and he releases for them.
Yeah.
And I just don't know who's going to do that for him, or how often, or how well. And he's got elite foot skills, so he often finds a target. He very rarely burns the ball, and when you've got 40 touches and you don't burn the ball, you're doing all right. So,
and that's the challenge for Hawthorn. Yeah. How do you replace 40 effective disposals?
Yeah, I mean,
that's not easy, and they've got two young lads in there to try to do it.
And look, Warple and Scrimshaw look quality, but it's not a Brownlow medalist either. And Cousins as well. And I mean, look, Amira is going to have to shoulder a lot of that, and to be honest, he's actually looking good anyway.
Yeah.
But still, that's
1 versus 4.
Yeah, it's a heavy midfield for O'Meara to be able to, try and battle against.
So, what's your tip, mate? Let's finish this up. What's your tip?
I reckon Adelaide 6 goals. I reckon is comfortable.
Yeah.
Wouldn't be surprised if we won by more though.
Yeah. And look, if you're listening to us and you're probably disappointed because there doesn't seem to be any disagreement between Cam and myself, it's a shame that we've got a game that appears on paper to be a comfortable win. I'm thinking 6-8 as well.
Yeah.
But rest assured that once the season gets underway,
there'll be some punch-ups for sure. There was times, and especially the 2017 season, I actually recall someone saying that we weren't going to make top 4, and we ended up actually making the grand final, funnily enough. And I think I actually called that, and someone else might not have. But
yeah. Did we win?
Oh, shut up. At least we made the top 4, mate. So I think we actually won a premiers, weren't we? Yeah, we were.
Soft draw, I heard.
Oh, well, we've got a soft draw this year as well, so maybe we'll go
Yeah,
top
I know.
again.
Exactly.
You almost don't want to finish top, though, do you? Because no one ever seems to win from top, so...
Cam, it's been a lot of fun doing this with you, mate, and we'll be doing this all year, and hopefully next week we'll get our video issues sorted out, and you'll see the full new format instead of just a hybrid that we had to do today.
Let's get this ugly mug on some video, eh?
Yeah, that's right, and yours too.
Yeah. Good one.
All right, thanks everyone for listening to us. Have a great day at the footy, and we'll see you on Sunday night at 7 o'clock for the wrap. See you later.